Okay, so sorry this is taking me so long to get around to this, but Tate, I think it's you and Natalie have a couple of pieces up here that you were wanting feedback on. So I'm going to go ahead and review those. Actually, I think also, um, yeah, Joe, um, you had one as well. So let's see what we can get through here. Um, so Tate, first off, this one's looking pretty. Let's go ahead and play it so you can see it. First off, this one's looking pretty good. Right now, the only thing I would see are very small hitches. Um, so some light things. So let's look at this like turn at the end here. It's like the character turns and then it feels like then turns again, and that just feels like that's all happening in one axis right there. So like the hips, legs, everything feels really still, but it's just like the it's kind of actually mesmerizing if you do that over and over again. It's just sort of the ball sort of rotating into position. But otherwise, this is actually looking really good. I think your weight's looking much better. Um, the this step's feeling better. Same with this one. But then you see a little thing like this, like watch the foot sort of pop down there. And we're looking at the foot that's on the ground. It just kind of rotates down, so it feels like it's locked, 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 and then it just rotates. And then so the only other little thing I would say is I noticed when I was watching it, it felt like that step there. Like I think that as much as it's not wrong when we watch it or when I scrub through it, like this foot, your I guess your character's right, our left. That foot is completely placed on the ground before the other one lifts off the ground, but it feels like it isn't. It feels like it happens just a touch too close. So maybe separate that and hold this like one frame later before the other foot comes off the ground. I think you could also have a little bit more of a weight shift here too over that front leg or over the character's right leg, and kind of make it feel like it's pushing off the ground instead of sort of lifting off the ground there. So make it feel like it's kind of pushing the character's weight over and then picking that foot up. But then otherwise, this is feeling pretty good. All this turn and looks stuff is pretty nice. So it's very very small tweaks. Much better though, much improved. So good work there. So let's look now at Natalie, and so I have to look at your email here real quick. Oh, okay. So you actually have some of these that you emailed me. So let's go ahead and save those really quick. Don't be offended at where I'm putting these. I save everything that I download that I know I'm not going to keep in a crap folder. So just so I'll remember that I can delete it later. Um, okay, yeah, so you had shown me this one in class. This one's looking much better. Let's actually look at this in quick time so we can scrub it. The hips are, see how we go from this really sharp angle to the hips and then it kind of pops in like kind of fast there. Some of that feels a little sharp to me, and like feels like you could polish on the curves just a touch more. But overall, this is actually looking really much better. They're pretty big steps up and down for the amount of distance it covers. Like he's taking some pretty big steps up and down, but not really going very far. And so there's a part of me that feels like that feels a little off, like the character should be moving a little bit more forward and back. But that's a kind of a small thing. I think you wanted him to kind of look like he's sort of stomping around, or like maybe he is even a bigger dinosaur than that. But overall, the weight shifts are looking much better on this. So yeah, this is also very improved. Very small thing, and the character sort of slides forward here at the beginning or at the end here, and these sniffs up and down, they kind of feel like they're happening on one axis. Like this feels like that's just movement on the translate Z, so you could have a little bit more on another axis too, just to kind of break it up. And then this rotation feels kind of straight up and down. It could be a little bit more off to the side. But otherwise, it's actually very good. This is much better. Let's look at your walk cycle. Now, you showed me your walk cycle in class. This one's one that I'll say that from this angle, this looks much better, and so this will raise the grade significantly. I do still feel like there's a couple little hitches in it, and so for additional feedback, I'd like to, I wouldn't mind sitting down and looking at it from different angles with you to make sure. The major thing I see right now, the arms are a little bit out to the side, and maybe just still a touch too far out to the side. Let me open this up in QuickTime so I can watch it. And sorry. The only other thing I would say about it is that, yeah, the arms are a little too far out. Like, see how the gap in between the elbow and the side just feels a little far, so it's kind of got a little bit of a strut. And if we look at the hands, it's almost like the hands are leading the action. So it's almost like he's sort of diving his hands forward. So they kind of, it starts to turn backwards and go backward toward the back of the character before the rest of the arm does. So that's not bad. It just feels a little different. It doesn't feel completely vanilla that way. The biggest thing I think is actually the elbows out to the side. Again, I'd like to see this from a different angle. Make sure stuff like you feel like you maybe are getting a little bit of IK pop or something right there on the back leg. So just little things like that, they would be able to see it from different angles, because people are going to want to see a walk cycle from quite a few different angles. But overall, this is looking much better. So good work there. Okay, you did project 2. Okay, so Bobby, let's go look at that. So project 2. And there we go. And there's your revision. Nice. Okay. It's open. I'm going to resize it. There we go. Yeah, you're right. You made this much better. So this is much more dynamic. Your poses are much more interesting. There's still a couple of little things you could polish around on it, but overall this is looking much better. So we're looking at... I bet that's really hard to do that way. So the main things that I notice, very small things, but these are just little nitpicky things. When the character lands here, let me try to see if I can draw this in a way that would make a little bit more sense. So if we're looking at this character from the front view, did that not open? No, like 5 of them are going to open. Let's try in Photoshop then. Can I open Photoshop? So if we're looking at, let's imagine we're looking at this character from the front view when he contacts the ground. So like right here, we got this leg that contacts there, and then this other foot kind of throws itself under. I think that when the character contacts the ground, get a pencil, it's not gonna mess up on me terribly. If we were looking at him from the front view, like right now, it's kind of like this is the hips, right? I know you're more dynamic than that. And then the foot is landing sort of, foot first here, and then the other one's still kind of up in the air here behind him, right? And then it comes down the ground. So I think that's kind of the issues. I think what we need is we need to be able to push the character over this leg a little bit when they first contact on this foot. So when that character lands on this foot, maybe it looks a little bit more like this from the front, okay? And with the other foot kind of trailing along behind here. And you got sort of your dynamic spine there, right? And then as that other foot comes down on the ground, that's when the weight kind of shifts back over and is sort of centered. So that's where you would get more of that centered pose. But right now it's landing with that foot like that, and then it makes it feel like this foot has to get up underneath there really quick, or the character would fall. Does that make sense? So that's a very long way of going to say, basically at this pose right here, I feel like the character's hips should be a little bit more to this side of the screen. Screen right, the character's left, right? And I kind of feel the same way on this pose here. Like the character should maybe be over top of his right leg a little bit more, which would be to the left side of our screen. And then as this foot comes down, then it's center more toward and in toward it. I feel like you get that a little bit. It just feels like it needs to be in there a little bit more. The other thing, like these poses are feeling much better here, much more dynamic. Another small thing, you get this pose here, but I feel like the character needs to squash into that a little bit more. So you'd feel the arms kind of absorb, and that way they can push off here. And then the last thing I would say is right here, the character's traveling backwards, and then it feels like they sort of hit a wall and slide down. So if we were looking at this from a different angle, let's say we were looking at this from the side angle, this is that middle one. He lands on his hands here, right? On his hands, feet up in the air, whatever. There's his head. So then his arc that he takes doesn't feel like this to me. It feels a little more like this. Okay, so it's like it's going straight back, kind of hitting a wall and sliding down. So you may tweak around with that arc just a little bit, but otherwise this one is looking like, you're right, this is just much better. You have really, I like that little dance he does at the end too. I know you worked really hard on these poses and pretty much started over from scratch, and I think that it really paid off. Like this is working much better. Again, there's some small little tweaks we could do to kind of clean up some arcs and stuff, but overall, this is looking much better, and I think was worth the extra effort. So hopefully that sort of caught us up on the people who have turned in revisions. I will post this video for you and update the grade, and so just let me know if you have any questions. Thanks. Bye.